All right, welcome folks. Today we are starting our kind of 2-week look at Hawaiian language programs. So this week we looked at an article, it's a chapter from the Green Book of Language Revitalization. And then, let's see, let's go ahead and take a peek ahead at next week, which is I just want to introduce these two texts so that you're ready, because next week is a pretty intense set of reading, just in terms of the volume of stuff. But I want to talk about what we're going to look at and why. So the first one is a cultural-based curriculum design and instructional method. So this is the work of Keiki Kawaiʻa, who is the director, essentially the dean, of the College of Hawaiian Language, which is called Kahaka Ula o Ke'ilikelani. Kahaka means the perch. So in a Hawaiian house, you get kind of a tall roof, and then hanging from the roof is this sort of a rafter, and they call it a perch or kahaka. Ka means the, and then ula is red. Usually you'd say ula ula. So kahaka ula is the red perch. O means belonging to. And then Ke'ilikelani was a queen in Hawaii. Big time queen, amazing. So she had a grass hut that she lived in. She also had a mansion. And sometimes you just go meet her. She'd be like, well, meet at the mansion. When people met with her, they spoke to her in Hawaiian. Powerful, powerful figure. So we're taking a look at this next week to think about curriculum design, what they have going on over there, and then sort of thinking about in detail the curriculum handbook that we're going to be creating for each of our languages. The second thing we'll look at is this. So this is Kumu, Honaua, Mauli, Ola. So Kumu is a teacher. Honua, I think, is the world. And then Mauli is like a life force. And then Ola is life. So Mauli would be Maori in Maori. So they're very similar languages. They're from the same language family. So you have Polynesian languages. The big sort of four that I know of is Tahitian in Tahiti, Hawaiian in Hawaii. So you'd say Hawaii with a V if you speak the dialect of the Big Island, and you'd say Hawaii with the W if you speak the dialect of the other islands. Then Maori, and then Rapa Nui. So Rapa Nui is, and so that's kind of this big, I guess they call it like a triangle. And so anybody know where Rapa Nui is?
Easter Island.
Yeah, it's an Easter Island. So I was at a language conference in Hawaii. This is before I started going into their programs over there. And I saw some people that looked like they looked Hawaiian to me. Like, I honestly couldn't, if I looked at someone, I probably couldn't tell you whether they're Tahitian or Hawaiian, or in this case, Rapa Nui. And so, but they had translators, and when they stood up, they had a translator who would translate into Hawaiian and then into English. And as I watched this, I don't know Spanish, but I can recognize it when I hear it, right? So I thought, okay, they look like Hawaiian peoples, but they're speaking Spanish, and now someone's translating into Hawaiian and translating into English. And then I found out, they're Rapa Nui from Easter Island. So all from the same language family, with Hawaiian and Tahitian being the most similar to each other, as far as I know. So this is basically the philosophy of Hawaiian education. So we're looking at this one to think about our other major project for this class, which is developing a philosophy of education for the language that we're working in. And so as we talk about those two projects, I just want to sort of preface this by saying we're looking at examples. This is only a class. And what I mean by that is I'm not asking you to write the documents that will now be adopted by the language community, and now you're the sole authority. So you don't need that kind of pressure. But one nice thing about being in a class together is we have this sort of laboratory type experience where what if you were in charge? And maybe you are going to be. And so I believe in collaborative efforts. One thing you'll see with their Hawaiian educational philosophy statement is that it's very hard to see who wrote it. So you get this sort of sense that it's a collaborative kind of a document. It is also translated into 4 other languages. So they wrote it in Hawaiian, and then it's got lots of Hawaiian cultural elements, which their schools do as well. And then they're like, oh yeah, we'll translate this into English, but we're also going to translate this into Japanese and French and I believe Spanish. So anyways, coming back to the reading for this week, any just sort of reactions, questions, thoughts?
Reading through, it was really nice for me to comprehend. And, I never really knew beforehand that, like, Maori and Hawaiian language are in the same language family. And it was, I don't know, like, as a language learner, I was like, I don't know, it was like in the words, I want to say. Like, the more, like, I don't know, the more they talked and made points about their languages and reading them within the text, it was just like really easy to tell. And I think that's kind of neat considering I don't really have much knowledge in those languages. How
Thank you for sharing. Any other additional thoughts? Want to riff off of that?
There was on page 170, like the second column down, it was talking about their assessments, and I know I don't want to throw anyone's name or corporations out there. People are trying to be like a Tlingit language instructor or be in classes, and they have to be assessed by someone to be like an educator in a classroom with kids, and you need to be assessed by someone who speaks that language fluently. You need to speak it fluently, and the kids need to speak it fluently. And for like the person here in town, for the company that's I'm not going to mention, I guess. I mean, it's hard for them or anybody else going into that kind of position to. How are you going to get assessed by someone who's fluent in Tlingit in a field that who does assessments like that? And then how many of us are actually? I mean, how many people are actually fluent? And then how many kids are fluent? So it's like all, I don't know, kind of like counterproductive for us to be in those kind of positions or even aim for it if we can't. We're just going to get shot down after how long? But when I was reading about that whole that column, that's what I thought about, because they had to do the same thing, and they just kind of, I mean, they took over all those positions where they were the ones giving the assessments. They were the ones teaching it. And yeah, everything about the reading was awesome though.
Mike Kai. So let's talk about. Someone else have a thought? We're going to talk about fluency in a second, but I want to make sure everyone has a chance to just share their initial reactions. We're just going to have kind of an open discussion today about